Senate will come to order. Pastor Ball will be fined $1 for preaching the longest sermon we've ever heard in the Senate. Mr. Schaffler, please call the roll.
Senators Amabile, Baisley, Ball, Benavidez, Bridges, Bright, Carson, Catlin, Cutter, Danielson, Danielson, Doherty, Doherty,
Senator Doherty, you're on mute if you're trying to be marked present for the roll call. Or try. Senator Doherty, can you hear us? We can't hear you, but we can see you.
Oh, I can hear you now. I couldn't hear you either. Hi,
Are you here?
I'm here.
Yes.
Exum, Frizzell, Gonzalez, Gonzalez, Henriksen, Judah, Kipp, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Lindstedt, Liston, Marchman, Mullica, Pelton B, Pelton R, Pelton R, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson, Snyder, Sullivan, Wallace, Weissman, Zamora Wilson. Mr. President.
Let's do this. The morning roll call is 35 present, 0 absent, 0 excused, and 0 vacant. We have a quorum. Senator Exum, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, I will. Good morning, everybody. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the journal. Senator Pelton Beautiful.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Journal of February 27th, 2026 be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Man, but the ayes still have it, and that motion is adopted. Senate Services.
Correctly printed, Senate Bill 132. Correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 43, Senate Joint Resolution 14.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions.
The motion is to proceed out of order for consideration of resolutions. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We'll proceed out of order. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of SR 003.
Senate Resolution 003 by Senator Snyder and Baisley concerning designating March as Arts Education Month in Colorado.
Senator Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Resolution 003 and ask that it be read at length.
Please read the bill at length, or the resolution at length.
Whereas arts education, which comprises a rich array of disciplines such as dance, media arts, music, film and theater arts, visual arts, and more, is a well-rounded subject and is an essential element of a complete education for all students. And whereas a substantive and sequential visual and performing arts curriculum enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, imagination and creativity, discipline and collaboration, alternative ways to communicate and express feelings and ideas, and cross-cultural understanding which support academic success across the curriculum. And whereas arts education contributes to increased attendance and graduation rates, elevates academic achievement, enhances social and emotional learning, and paves the way for students to achieve college, career, and citizenship readiness. And whereas to succeed in today's economy, students must masterfully develop skills that business leaders demand in a 21st century workforce, including the ability to be creative, communicate effectively, collaborate with peers, think critically, and innovate. And whereas although arts education is part of a well-rounded education according to federal statute, access to quality arts education is not widely available or consistent across Colorado. And whereas standards for dance, drama, film, and theater arts, music, and visual arts have been fully embedded in the Colorado academic standards and are updated every 6 years, but there is no statewide instructional requirement for elementary schools, middle schools, or high schools. And whereas Colorado is one of only 2 states that does not collect data on course-level offerings in the arts across all districts or data on student participation in specific forms of art, such as dance, music, theater, or visual arts, which leads to difficulty in evaluating the equitable access to arts education for Colorado students, schools, and districts. And whereas the arts are a valued and integral part of life in the United States and in Colorado, are essential for a complete education and contribute immensely to the vibrancy and vitality of communities and the nation. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the 75th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, 1, that to align with Music in Our Schools Month, Theater in Our Schools Month, Dance in Your Schools Month, and Youth Art Month, all of which are celebrated nationally in March each year, the Colorado General Assembly designates March as Arts Education Month to commemorate, celebrate, and advance the vital role that arts learning plays in a complete and comprehensive education. And 2, that the state of Colorado recognizes the need to expand equitable access to quality arts education across the state to serve all students. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be sent to Governor Jared Polis and members of the Colorado State Board of Education.
Is there any discussion? Senator Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'm here with my wonderful colleague from the good senator from Woodland Park, and we are proud to serve as co-chairs of the General Assembly's Arts Caucus, alongside with our colleagues in the House, Representative Froelich and Representative Titone. Today's resolution was inspired by a convening of the Arts Caucus last year to elevate the importance of arts education and better understand the current landscape. We are also proud to inaugurate the first ever month in Colorado. Arts Month, March, starts today. The arts, including visual arts, music, theater, dance, media arts, are essential to well-rounded and complete education for students in Colorado. There are myriad academic and social benefits for students that have been documented over time. Instruction in the arts also prepares students for valuable careers and future success. That may be in makes a vibrant creative industries, or in any other 21st century job that requires critical thinking, collaboration, and innovation. These creative industries in Colorado account for $19.7 billion, or nearly 4% of the entire Colorado economy. Investing in arts, learning, and culture appreciation now will fuel our economy in the future and make our communities more vibrant.
Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you. And folks, thank you for standing, but please feel free to have a seat for my half here. So thank you to my good co-sponsor here from right next door to my town and district in Manitou Springs. So all that he just said, and yet Colorado has work to do still to paint a full picture of equitable access to arts learning in our K-12 schools and for all students. So overall, this resolution is about celebrating, uplifting the value of arts education and recognizing the amazing work that's already happening across the state. We're honored to inaugurate this first ever Education Month in Colorado, Arts Education Month in Colorado. We're excited to highlight the classrooms, the schools, educators, students, districts, and community organizations who are doing this work every single day, including my high school sweetheart and later this month, my wife of 48 years. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to Think 360 Arts for Learning and Colorado Business Community for the Arts for leading this initiative to inaugurate the first Arts Education Month in Colorado.
Senator Snyder.
Thank you, Madam President. And we are so fortunate today, some of the leading folks in this space who work tirelessly to promote the arts in schools and wherever else they can. And so with that, I'd like to recognize Meredith Badler, Kristen Compton Day, both from the Colorado Business Committee of the Arts, Christy Costello, Deputy Director of Colorado Creative Industries, Khadijah Haynes, CCI member and Colorado Black Arts Movement, Adam Kuhlberg, who's the director of 360 Arts, and the following board members of Think 360 Arts. So that'd be Laurie Schell, Joy Levy, Gray Pack, Donna Larita, Paul Jerez, Andrea Rowland, Dazia Brown. And there's many more up in the gallery, but these are the movers and shakers that really do this for us. So thank you very much. I didn't say anybody.
Is there further discussion? Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Madam President. Raise your hand if every morning you sing in the shower and you actually sound the way that you think you do. I didn't ask what they would look like. I said, you need to get out of the front row. I can tell you what, I definitely don't sound the way that I think. When I was growing up in church, I was singing in the choir, and they used to say, make a joyful noise, but they usually put me in the back. And I remember one morning hearing my daughter, Naomi, singing as she was getting ready for the morning for school. And then she went to go perform. She became a student of performing arts. In particular, she played Lumiere, the candle in Beauty and the Beast. And she got up and she sang, and I have never heard her sing the way that she sang. And she just had an amazing performance. She was asked to sing the national anthem at her 8th grade continuation. And again, she just did an amazing job. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my daughter, who has a passion and a desire to be in performing arts, and the importance of programs like the ones you heard recognized earlier. In particular, the one that I want to acknowledge is not just CBAM, but Khadijah Haynes, who you heard earlier, also leads with Montbello Organizing Committee, the Fresh Flow Initiative, which is an arts education hub in Montbello, in my district, and it's a community that doesn't always have those resources, and you usually have to go somewhere else for that, and we will now have that in our community. So thank you so much, Khadijah, for your amazing work. And Naomi, if you're watching this, but you're probably not, this is the one moment that I hope you think I'm a cool dad.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Madam President Pro Tem. I just wanted to say thanks for bringing the resolution and to weigh in with I think that this arts education is extraordinarily important. You might not know, but I was an art major in college, and it's just some of these lifelong lessons that you learned and the joy that you can find. I've played piano since I was 5 years old. I was in the band. We did the plays. I mean, it's also at risk in a number of our schools where it's the first to get cut. But I think it's also some of the most important education we can give our kids. So just from someone who's benefited from this, I'm extremely grateful. I think it's really important. I thank our guests for being here today, and continue your extraordinary work.
Very good. Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of SR 003. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, SR 26003 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senator Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of HJR 1019.
House Joint Resolution 1019 by Representatives Ricks and Senator Judah concerning the recognition of Caregiving Youth Day.
Senator Judah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Joint Resolution 1019 and ask that it be read at length.
Mr. Schaffler, please read 1019 at length.
Whereas caregiving youth are children and adolescents under 18 years old who provide primary or secondary care to a family member or loved one of any age who has a chronic illness, frailty of aging, disability, mental health condition, or other health-related need requiring regular assistance. And whereas it is estimated that more than 6 million caregiving youth nationwide provide essential care while also balancing school, extracurricular activities, employment, sibling care, and their own physical, emotional, and social development. And whereas the most recent data from the Healthy Kids Colorado survey shows that 12.3% of high schoolers and 20.4% of middle schoolers identify as caregivers, with as many as 31.03% of children shouldering caregiving responsibilities in some districts. And whereas caregiving youth often perform adult-level responsibilities, including personal care, medication management, household tasks, emotional support, and care coordination, frequently without formal recognition or support. And whereas caregiving youth are at increased risk of academic challenges, absenteeism, stress, anxiety, substance misuse, and social isolation, yet remain largely underidentified and undeserved within education, healthcare, and social service systems. And whereas caregiving youth contribute significantly to the stability and well-being of their families and communities, often at personal sacrifice, and must navigate difficult situations that are no fault of their own. And whereas increasing awareness of caregiving youth is essential to promoting early identification, appropriate accommodations, trauma-informed supports, and improved outcomes for these young people. And whereas February 20th, 2026 is designated as Caregiving Youth Day, and Colorado will formally observe Caregiving Youth Day on February 27th, 2026 at the Colorado State Capitol. Now therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the 75th General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the Senate concurring herein. One, that February 20th, 2026 is hereby recognized as Caregiving Youth Day in Colorado, with official observance taking place on February 27th, 2026. Two, that the General Assembly honors and recognizes caregiving youth across Colorado for their compassion, resilience, and contributions to their families and communities. Three, that the General Assembly honors and recognizes caregiving youth as an underserved and underrecognized population, deserving of increased awareness, understanding, and support. That educators, school districts, healthcare providers, policymakers, and community organizations are encouraged to identify caregiving youth and consider appropriate accommodations, resources, and trauma-informed supports. And five, Colorado supports continued research, data collection, and collaborative initiatives to better understand and respond to the needs of caregiving youth. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be transmitted to the state representatives Nequeta Ricks, former state senator Daphne Michelson Janae, governor of Colorado, the Honorable Jared Polis, the Colorado Alliance for Caregiving Youth, the Colorado chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, the Denver Foundation, the American Association of Caregiving Youth, the JEKL Institute, the Colorado Respite Coalition, the Ketone Cares Foundation, Youth Roots, Black Resilience in Colorado, the Next 50 Foundation, Aging While Black, the Colorado Trust, the Denver Black Reparations Council, the Colorado Black Mental Health Collaborative, the Center for African American Health, Mahogany Mother Circle, the Therapists of Color Collaborative, the Colorado Department of Education, the Colorado Office of School Safety, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment.
Senator Judah.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, please be seated, and thank you so much. I rise today in recognition of Caregiving Youth Day in the state of Colorado. I want to reiterate a few points that the resolution said. Across the state, there are children and adolescents quietly providing care for parents, grandparents, siblings, and loved ones who are aging, chronically ill, disabled, or facing serious health challenges. These young people manage medications, provide personal care, support for their families emotionally, among others, and keep households running, all while attending school and still growing up themselves. It's estimated more than 6 million caregiving youth nationwide carry these responsibilities, often without being identified or supported by the system meant to serve them. In Colorado, some of our school districts have as many as 31% of children shouldering caregiving responsibilities. As a result, many experience academic challenges, stress, and isolation, despite the incredible resilience and compassion they demonstrate every day. This resolution recognizes caregiving youth as an under-recognized and under-deserved population and encourages greater awareness and support for educators, healthcare providers, and certainly, most importantly, us as policymakers to protect these children. By acknowledging caregiving youth, we affirm that their contributions matter, and that no child should feel invisible and alone while caring adult responsibilities, and have to choose between caregiving and learning. We acknowledge caregiving youth that are present in the chamber today. They were in the chamber, sorry. And those of you who may be caregiving youth and never even realized it. I would also like to recognize our guests, if they could please stand, in the chamber today from the Executive Director of the Colorado Alliance for Caregiving Youth, Nadine Roberts-Cornish, and their Board of Directors. We want to thank you for your work and everything you're doing to protect our children. Thank you so much.
Further discussion? There is further discussion. Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this resolution, as I will acknowledge that we will have many difficult budget conversations ahead over the course of this legislative session. Imagine if instead of just looking at dollars and cents, we measured the health and well-being of our society by how we cared for one another, how we cared for our babies and elders in their moments of crisis. Just think about how our priorities would shift. And so to the Alliance for Caregiving Youth, thank you for the work that you all do to make that often invisible work visible, recognized, and honored. Thank you.
Very good. Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of HJR 261019. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, HJR 261019 is adopted. Co-sponsors, Senator Judah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors. Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of the bill on the consent calendar.
House Bill 1035 by Representative Soper and Woodrow and Senators Weissman and Frizzell concerning the enactment of the Colorado Revised Statutes 2025 as the positive and statutory law of the state of Colorado.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of the bill on third reading of bills, final passage consent calendar, which is House Bill 1035.
Any discussion on the bill? Discussion? Senator Basley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be a no vote in the next moment here because this body of work includes not just bills that have been signed into law that I disagree with, but some that challenge the constitutionality. And so I just thought I should point that out prior to casting my vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very good. Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of the bill on third reading of the bill's consent calendar. Are there any no votes? Senator Basley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be counted as a no vote on House Bill 26-1035.
Senator Basley will be counted as a no vote on 1035. Senator Zamora-Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be counted as a no vote on House Bill 26-1035.
Senator Zamora-Wilson will be counted as a no vote on House Bill 26-1035. Senator Liston.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too wish to be counted as a no vote on House Bill 26-1035. Thank you.
Senator Liston will be counted as a no vote on House Bill 26-1035. With a, oh, come on down, brother. You sure? Senator Frizzell, how do you vote? I'm just joking. With a vote of 32 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1035 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Kipp, Judah, Wallace, third reading of bills. Final passage. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title to Senate Bill 53.
Senate Bill 53 by Senators Kirkmeyer, Mulliken, and Representatives Clifford and Gonzalez are concerning the expansion of eligible borrowers from mortgages throughout the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority.
Senator Mulliken.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 53 on third reading and final passage.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 53. Are there any no votes? Senators Zamora Wilson, Amabile, Sullivan, Henriksen, Baisley. With a vote, and Senator Pelton R. is a no vote on Senate Bill 53. With a vote of 29 ayes, 6 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 53 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Roberts, Snyder, Liston, Lindstedt, Carson, Frizzell, Doherty, Kipp, Pelton B, Mr. Schaffler, please read the title, House Bill 1064. I'm sorry, Mr. Schaffler. On Senate Bill 53, please add the President as a co-sponsor, if you can do that. Working from the floor, are we? And then when you're ready, Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of House Bill 1064.
House Bill 1064 by Representatives Jackson and Ryden and Senator Amabile concerning modifications to the youthful offender system.
Senator Amabile.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1064 on third reading and final passage.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1064. Are there any no votes? What? Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Frizzell, Zamora Wilson, Rich, Kirkmeyer, Baisley, Liston, Bright, Pelton R, Catlin, Carson, Pelton B. With a vote of, are you trying to get Senator Baisley? Do you think Senator Baisley would like to be a no vote on House Bill 1064? Ah, very good, Senator Pelton B. Please add Senator Baisley as a no vote. With a vote of 23 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1064 is passed. Co-sponsors: Senators Judah, Gonzalez, Wallace, Kipp, Marchman, Cutter, Weissman, Henriksen, Exum, Ball, Doherty, Colker, Lindstedt. And in the spirit of Senator Priola, please add the President. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title to Senate Bill 43.
Senate Bill 43 by Senator Sullivan and Representatives Froelich and Brown concerning the regulation of firearm barrel transfers and in connection therewith creating a criminal penalty for the unlawful sale of a firearm barrel.
Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 043 on third reading and final passage.
Further discussion. Senator Zamora Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. President. So here we are again. Colleagues, fellow Coloradans, those who cherish the freedoms upon which our great nation was founded, I rise today and vehemently oppose Senate Bill 2643. Here we have a piece of legislation that masquerades as public safety measure, but in reality strikes at the very heart of our constitutional liberties. This bill, which mandates firearm barrels, simple components, mere tubes of metal, be sold exclusively through federally licensed dealers, bans private possession with intent to sell or transfer them, and imposes burdensome 5-year record-keeping requirements on those dealers, and creates new misdemeanor offenses for violations. Again, most of my colleagues on the other side would like the numbers to decrease in jails. This is not going to make that happen. And it's nothing short of an assault on the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding Coloradans. It empowers the Colorado Bureau of Investigation to devise forms for tracking these transactions and inching us perilously closer to a de facto gun registry that our founding fathers would have decried as tyrannical overreach. And so, before I delve into the specifics of this horrible bill, its monetary costs, its non-monetary burdens, and unintended consequences to the taxpayer, avid gun hobbyists, gun shops, gun owners, and all who support the Second Amendment, allow me to take a moment and remind us all why the Second Amendment exists in the first place. Our founding fathers, they were incredibly visionary patriots who risked everything to birth a nation free from the shackles of monarchy and arbitrary rule. Inscribe this right not as a mere suggestion, but as a fundamental bulwark against oppression. And let us go back to the late 18th century, to the smoke-filled rooms of Philadelphia where the Constitution was forged, and to ratifying conventions where the Bill of Rights was demanded and secured. The Second Amendment states plainly, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Infringed. That means you can't violate it, can't encroach on it, it can't be compromised, you can't inch away from it, you can't overreach it. And why did men like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton deem this so essential? It was born from the bitter lessons of the Revolutionary War, where colonial militiamen, ordinary farmers, blacksmiths, and merchants stood against the might of the British Empire because they had the arms to do so. Washington himself, in his address to Congress in 1790, emphasized that a free people ought not only be armed, but disciplined. He understood that an armed citizenry is the ultimate check on government excess, a deterrent to would-be tyrants who might seek to disarm the populace, as King George III attempted through his infamous gunpowder seizures. Gunpowder, part of a component to our arms and our defense, and his arms embargoes. Jefferson, in a letter to William Smith in 1787, warned that the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. He saw the right to bear arms as intrinsic to self-defense, not just against foreign invaders, but against domestic threats to liberty. Madison, the architect of the Bill of Rights, argued in the Federalist Paper 46, the advantage of being armed, which Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation, forms a barrier against the enterprises of ambition. And Hamilton echoed this in Federalist number 28, noting that if the government, the federal government, were to overstep, the people could take up arms in defense of their rights. These men had witnessed the Stamp Act, the Intolerable Acts, and the quartering of troops in private homes. They knew that disarmament precedes subjugation. History is repleted with examples, from ancient Rome's disarmament of conquered people to the British attempts in the colonies. The Second Amendment was crafted to ensure that no government, federal or state, could strip away this natural right. It protects not just hunting or sport, but the very essence of sovereignty, the ability of the people to resist tyranny. As Patrick Henry thundered during the Virginia Ratifying Convention, guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. This bill, Senate Bill 2643, approaches that jewel with a chisel and hammer, and it chips away at our freedoms under the guise of safety. And let us turn to the cold facts of this bill and why it must be rejected. The proponents may claim it's a minor regulation. Reasonable is what I continue to hear. It's reasonable, but it's aimed at curbing crime. But the fiscal note admits minimal state impacts with zero new revenue or expenditures starting in 26 through 27. But this ignores the creeping cost of enforcement, the workload for the CBI to create and manage new forms, the judicial resources tied up in prosecuting new misdemeanors, and the potential for budget overruns in a state already grappling with a $1 billion shortfall. Colorado taxpayers, you and I included, will bear these monetary costs. Our hard-earned dollars meant for fixing potholes on I-70, funding our schools, or bolstering wildfire response will instead fuel this nanny state expansion. It's a diversion of resources from real priorities to a law that offers no proven public safety benefit. Criminals do not shop at licensed dealers. They operate in the shadows, and this bill won't eliminate. But the costs aren't just financial. Looking at it non-monetarily, this erodes fiscal accountability as government balloons its control over private property without justification. Unintended consequences? Wasted tax dollars breed cynicism, paving the way for higher taxes or cuts in essential services to cover the hidden compliance burdens. And imagine a family in rural Colorado already stretched thin by inflation, seeing their property taxes rise indirectly because lawmakers prioritize symbolic gestures of substantive solutions. And this bill doesn't stop crime. It punishes the innocent and burdens the taxpayer. And consider the avid gun hobbyists among us, those innovators who embody the American spirit of self-reliance. For them, the monetary costs are stark. It could be starting from $200 per barrel in FFL transfer fees, plus the time and travel to comply.
Senator, would you like to use your second 10 minutes?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes.
Okay.
Customizing a rifle for better accuracy or repairing a family heirloom shotgun just got prohibitively expensive. Looking at the non-monetary costs, it's a profound loss of freedom. The joy of tinkering at home, innovating without Big Brother's oversight, mandatory dealer involvement invades privacy through records that could be hacked, leaked, or misused in future political witch hunts. We've seen it before. Government databases become tools for harassment. Unintended consequences ripple out. Fewer hobbyists means a diminished community that promotes responsible gun culture. Some may skirt the law by buying out of state, risking felonies, or simply quit, leaving a void where mentorship and safety training once thrived. This bill stifles the very ingenuity that our founding fathers celebrated, men like Benjamin Franklin, who tinkered with inventions to advance liberty. Gun shops, those small businesses run by FFL dealers who are the backbone of our outdoor economy, face their own onslaught. Monetarily, there's no state funding to offset the administrative expenses of 5-year record keeping, form compliance, and increased liability. Sure, they might collect transfer fees, but in a market already squeezed by regulations, it's a net loss, especially for low-volume items like barrels. And picture the mom-and-pop shop in Pueblo or Grand Junction where the owner juggles inventory, customers, and now endless paperwork, and time spent on CBI-mandated forms. It's time not spent advising a first-time buyer or safe handling. And non-monetarily, the costs, it turns the entrepreneurs into unwilling government agents burdened by more red tape and oversight. It's demoralizing, detracting from the pride of running a business that supports the Second Amendment values. Unintended consequences, you're looking at slower sales as customers balk at hassles, or worse, a shift to the black market dealings that undercut legitimate commerce. Rural dealers already on thin margins might shutter, leaving the communities without local access to law enforcement arms and fostering economic deserts. This isn't progress, it's regression, echoing the overregulation that our founders fled in England, where the royal charters stifled free enterprise. For the everyday gun hunters or gun owners, we have hunters, sport shooters, and those who keep a firearm for home defense. The hits keep coming. Monetarily, it's the added fees and costs for barrel replacements, with buyers now required to be 18 and firearm eligible, introducing verification delays that could strand a hunter mid-season. A barrel wears out after 1,000 rounds. Replacing it shouldn't require a pilgrimage to an FFL and a wallet-draining fee. Non-monetarily, this chills the exercise of the Second Amendment through fear of tracking. It treats owners as presumptive criminals for possessing basic parts, fostering an atmosphere of suspicion. Unintended consequences are dire. Owners might delay maintenance, leading to unsafe firearms and accidents. Criminals, of course, they ignore the law entirely, sourcing barrels from illicit channels while law-abiders face scrutiny. This breeds distrust in government, much like the colonists' resentment towards British searches and seizures. As John Adams defended the Boston Massacre soldiers, he reminded us that arbitrary laws erode the social compact. And for all who support the Second Amendment, patriots from all walks of life, including minorities and low-income families who rely on affordable self-defense, the costs are existential. Monetarily, it's indirect. Donations to legal fights against this bill or the economic drag on Colorado's gun industry, which supports jobs and revenue. Non-monetarily, it's an assault on core liberties, and the Second Amendment safeguards against tyranny, yet this bill erodes it with piecemeal by regulating components, setting precedents for broader bans on magazines, triggers, or stocks. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Unintended consequences, it alienates those who protect most, raising barriers to entry and driving activism underground or out of state. Anti-gun lobbies grow bolder while our Second Amendment voice weakens. And think of the women in urban Denver learning to shoot for empowerment, or the rancher in the Eastern Plains defending livestock. These voices are silenced by bureaucracy. As Madison warned, encroachment on rights must be resisted at the onset. In expounding on these points, I cannot help but draw parallels to history. The Founding Fathers created the Second Amendment amid fears of a standing army. Today, we face a standing bureaucracy. Jefferson's Declaration lists grievances, including quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, and now it's quartering regulations on our gun safes. Hamilton and Federalist number 84 argued against the Bill of Rights, initially fearing it might imply unenumerated powers, but yielding to ensure explicit protections. We must honor that by rejecting incremental infringements and consider the broader implications. If barrels today, what tomorrow? Suppressors, ammunition, springs? The bill exemplifies overreach. No safety gains at freedom's expense, while criminals bypass it and studies show gun control doesn't reduce crime. Chicago's strict laws haven't curbed violence, yet here we are layering more restrictions on law-abiding citizens. Once again, another bad bill that infringes our rights. In conclusion, Senate Bill 2643 is unconstitutional. I'll say it again, it's unconstitutional. It's unnecessary and un-American. It burdens taxpayers with costs, hobbyists with fees and loss of freedom, shops with red tape, owners with scrutiny, and supporters with eroded rights. I ask that you reject it and preserve the republic our founding fathers envisioned, a land where liberty, not regulations or legislation, reigns supreme. I ask for a no vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Bright.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 43. I have no doubt the sponsors of the bill believe this bill will make Colorado safer. I, too, want to make Colorado safer. This bill doesn't do that. I've read this bill closely. What I see is a piece of legislation that creates real problems for real people in exchange for a regulatory framework that, when you look at how it actually works, does not deliver on what it promises. Let's walk through what the bill says. Every sale or transfer of a firearm barrel or tube must occur in person through a federally licensed dealer. If you sell a barrel or a tube without going through a dealer, that's a criminal offense. Up to 30 days in jail, $500. A second offense is a Class 2 misdemeanor. All of this for a component that the federal government does not classify as a firearm. Look at what this bill does not apply to, specifically page 4 of the bill, line 24, law enforcement agencies, the military, federal firearm licensees. Those are reasonable exemptions. But the bill stops there. A combat veteran, someone who has been screened, trained, and entrusted with weapons systems most of us in this chamber have never touched, walks into a shop to replace a worn barrel on a hunting rifle, and this bill treats that person no differently than someone else who has never held a firearm in their life. A retired peace officer with 30 years of annual firearms qualifications gets the same treatment. We've exempted the agencies they served, but not our hometown heroes. I think most Coloradoans would find that hard to explain. And then there are the families. Under this bill, if a father hands his son a shotgun barrel, a barrel that's been in the family for generations, he's committed a crime and potentially faces, again, 30 days in jail and a $500 fine. I'm not sure that was the intent, but this is the result the bill produces. And I appreciate the work that the bill sponsors have done to recognize families in this space. I also ask us to consider what the in-person mandate means outside the Front Range. We have 64 counties in Colorado. Many rural counties appear to have only a handful of dealers, and some have none. A rancher in Hinsdale County whose barrel wears out, and I want to be clear, a functional barrel is not a luxury for these folks. It's how they protect livestock from predators. The rancher may be looking at a 100-mile round trip to buy a replacement. A full day gone off the ranch. And the bill also shuts down the practice of ordering a barrel online and picking up at a local dealer, which is how a lot of people in rural Colorado access specialty parts right now. The dealer still checks ID, still documents the sale. Cutting off that option does not make anyone safer. It just makes it harder to live and work in rural Colorado. Then there's the record-keeping piece, and I want to be specific about this. The bill requires dealers to collect 7 required data fields of personal information and keep it for 5 years. But it never goes anywhere. Nothing in this bill requires the data to be submitted to the CBI. Nothing feeds it into a law enforcement database. It sits in a filing cabinet at a small business in Colorado. The barrel itself has no serial number, cannot be traced through any existing federal system. So what we have is what we've built is a paper trail that leads nowhere, and we're telling small dealers who are already buried in federal compliance paperwork to administer it. I can't vote for a bill that creates criminal penalties for the sale of a component the federal government does not regulate, that overlooks our service of our veterans and law enforcement officers, and that puts a heavier burden on rural Coloradoans than anyone else in the state. It saddles small businesses with a record-keeping requirement that does not actually get information in the hands of law enforcement. This bill asks a lot of people to bear a lot of cost, and it doesn't deliver on the safety that it promises in return. With that, I would urge a no vote on Senate Bill 43.
Thank you. Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Madam President. Fellow senators, I appeal to your oath of office to join me in voting against Senate Bill 43. When we took that oath of office, we swore to uphold, support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Colorado. That, of course, includes the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution that says that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It does not read that the right of the government to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, but the right of the people over the government. This bill includes the words that says, this section does not apply to the sale or transfer of a firearm barrel to a federal, state, or local law enforcement agency, or the sale or transfer of a firearm barrel to the United States military, or to an authorized representative of a city and county, state, or the federal government. So it restricts the citizens, but it does not restrict the government. Now, bills like this one are ostensibly introduced to prevent mass killings. But mass killings are precisely the reason why we fight against bills like this. The greatest and the most terrifying examples of mass killings do not come from the citizens, but rather from governments against disarmed citizens. And we need to look no further than just this past January, when the nation of Iran killed tens of thousands of its citizens that they had disarmed. Now, how ironic it is that this bill ends in a safety clause, a clause that prevents the citizens from overturning this bill before it goes into law. Members, we need to vote against this bill and all others like it that challenge the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution. This is a no vote. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Rich.
Thank you, Madam President. And of course, I'm going to rise in opposition to this bill. The criminalization of private gun barrel sales. The criminalization of private gun barrel sales will significantly impact the lives of countless Colorado gun owners, such as sportsmen, firearm enthusiasts, and everyday citizens who are simply seeking to protect their families and property. Under this bill, a person who possesses a spare barrel with the intent to sell it, even if they do not complete a sale, could face criminal penalties. This vague intent standard invites selective enforcement and places lawful gun owners at risk of prosecution for the possession of gun barrels outright. Additionally, the bill's in-person FLF transfer requirement imposes significant practical burdens, particularly on rural Coloradans who lack sizable access to FLF. Forcing rural Coloradans to travel long distances simply to purchase or transfer a firearm barrel is an unnecessary imposition on their Second Amendment rights, highlighting glaring regulatory favoritism within the bill. There's a lot of federal or rural legislators in this body. Doesn't matter party affiliation, we know that we're outnumbered. And it seems that when we pass these bills, or this chamber passes these bills, it's always rural Colorado that gets left out. And it might be because we don't have as many as the I-25 corridor. But it's definitely a problem. Some other things I wanted to bring up is the increased costs for lawful gun owners without improving safety. FFL transfers, as we all know, are not free. They typically involve transfer fees, record keeping, compliance overhead, and delays. For hunters, competitive shooters, hobbyists, and gunsmiths who regularly replace worn or damaged barrels, these costs add up quickly. The result is a de facto tax on lawful behavior, pricing some citizens out of exercising a lawful right while doing nothing to deter criminals who overwhelmingly acquire firearms through illegal channels rather than lawful purchases. It distracts from policies that actually address crime. Criminal misuse of firearms is driven by intent, not by access to replacement parts sold lawfully to the general public. A barrel requirement risks giving lawmakers the appearance of doing something while diverting attention from measures that could actually reduce violent crime, such as enforcing existing laws, targeting repeat violent offenders, and improving mental health and community-based interventions. I don't know, but I haven't been able to find any credible evidence of a public safety threat from criminals attacking people with gun barrels. It sets a troubling precedent. Perhaps most concerning, regulating barrels as if they were firearms normalizes the idea that any common object associated with a constitutionality-protected activity can be tracked, registered, and restricted over time. That precedent should concern not only gun owners, but anyone who values clear limits on government power and regulatory restraint. If gun barrels can be registered, then why not force people to register their purchases of books, movies, artwork, 3D printer ink, or other things that legislators might one day define as dangerous or otherwise contribute to a threat to public safety. You know, I became a legislator, and my first year was 2019, and I was in the House. And from 2019 to 2025, there have been 31 anti-gun bills. And I don't know if there's any data that would track whether any of those bills that have passed have eliminated any crime, because Colorado is the second most dangerous state to live in. So it seems like an epic fail to me. And to have a bill like this to criminalize barrels, which isn't actually even a firearm, I just could not be able, I can't be able to support this, and I'm going to ask for a no vote.
Senator Carson.
Thank you, Madam President. On Friday, I joined my colleagues, many of my colleagues, in outlining the reasons I believe we should oppose this legislation. But I think it's a good idea now, as we approach the final vote, to once again reiterate those reasons. And I think there are 5 major reasons to oppose this legislation. The first is the record-keeping burden we're putting on businesses, in particular small businesses, federally licensed firearm dealers, which is a legal activity. It's another business in this state, which I think we are encouraging, quite frankly, to consider leaving this state. You know, as I mentioned, we've gone after the oil and gas industry, the energy industries. We had a major high-tech firm leave us just last week. And I think the attitude toward firearm dealers by a lot of folks is that be fine with them if they just up and moved and took those jobs with them outside of Colorado. So number one, the tremendous record-keeping burden, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a moment. Number two, this bill criminalizes everyday activities between our citizens, basically, between gun owners, sportsmen, everyday transactions. We're looking at criminalizing the exchange of gun barrels, in particular in this bill. I think we should avoid continually criminalizing activities, legal activities of this nature, setting up petty offenses that is going to complicate the whole area of private gun ownership in this state. I am pleased, I will say that on Friday, I am pleased that the sponsors of the bill accepted the amendment by our colleague from Cheyenne Wells to remove family members from coverage here. The exchange of barrels between family members clearly, I think, was an overreach there, and I'm glad that at least has been addressed in the bill. Number three, the bill talks about, and I think we haven't focused on this enough, but you're basically criminalizing the mere intent. I don't know how that's going to be analyzed or enforced, but as it states here in paragraph 3A in the bill, on page 3 of the bill, it is unlawful for a person who is not a federally licensed firearm dealer to possess a firearm barrel with the intent to sell or transfer, or with the intent to offer to sell or transfer the firearm barrel in violation of this legislation. I think that's going to be potentially lead to an awful lot of accusations, and again, criminalizing what are really should be perfectly legal activities between citizens who own firearms. So number four then, as my colleague from the Air Force Academy has outlined, I think very well, the Second Amendment issues and the history of not infringing upon people's lawful rights to own firearms in this country, particularly in the state of Colorado. Our colleague from Grand Junction has calculated, I think it's very helpful, calculated 31 bills that have come through the legislature in recent years restricting in some way or the other firearm ownership. And after a while, you really have to ask the question, the cumulative effect of all of these pieces of legislation, I believe, is clearly infringing on the Second Amendment rights of our citizens here in Colorado. And you have to remember, you know, when we talk about the Bill of Rights, you may not agree with all the provisions in there. You know, we have First Amendment rights around religion, about freedom of the press, about freedom of speech, freedom to assemble. But in my view, the Second Amendment is just as important as other amendments in the Constitution. And quite frankly, we wouldn't have a Constitution if it wasn't for the Bill of Rights. If you look at the history of that, there was a great deal of skepticism among the delegates to the Constitutional Convention and in the states about whether their rights and their liberties would be adequately preserved. There was concern about too much concentration of power in the federal government. And so Madison and others basically agreed to put a Bill of Rights in here, and that Bill of Rights would include the right of the people to keep and bear arms and to not have that right infringed. And the fifth reason I would oppose the bill is basically a lack of impact, a lack of actual criminal deterrence. I mean, when you weigh on a scale all of the burdens that a piece of legislation like this places on everyday activities in our state, and then on the other side you put the actual deterrent impact, the impact that the bill is going to have in preventing criminal activity. And I don't see how you can say that in any way those are balanced. There's just far too much regulation and legislation here to warrant what I think would be a very questionable deterrent effect of the legislation. Those are the 5 reasons I would give. I want to touch on a couple of them. We talked about the impact on the federally licensed firearm dealers. And on Friday, I did read from the actual legislation, which I think is useful to talk about the detail to which this data is going to have to be collected and kept and retained for 5 years. A federally licensed firearm dealer shall legibly record the following information pertaining to the sale or transfer of a firearm barrel on a form to be prescribed by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. So you're going to have the date of the sale or transfer. You're going to have the purchaser's or transferee's driver's license number or other official government identification number and the state or territory where it was issued. You're going to have the make, the model, the caliber of the firearm which the firearm barrel is designed for or used in. They got to collect the purchaser or transferee's full legal name, obviously, the full legal name of the employee who processed the sale of or transfer of the firearm barrel at the federally licensed facility, the purchaser's or transfer's full residential address and telephone number, and the purchaser or transfer's date of birth. And then the federally licensed firearm dealer will retain these records for at least 5 years. So again, as I outlined, reason number 1, I think, to oppose the legislation, you're going to have a significant record-keeping and paperwork burden on private businesses. Just to summarize where I'm at on this bill, the criminalization of private gun barrel sales will significantly impact the lives of countless Colorado gun owners, such as sportsmen, firearm enthusiasts, and everyday citizens who are simply seeking to protect their families and property. Under this bill, a person who possesses a spare barrel with the intent to sell it, again, there's that word intent, the intent to sell it, even if they do not complete the sale, could face criminal penalties. This vague intent standard invites selective enforcement and places lawful gun owners at risk of prosecution for the mere possession of gun barrels outright.
Senator, would you like to use your second 10 minutes?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Additionally, the bill's in-person federally licensed firearm transfer requirements impose significant practical burdens, particularly on rural Coloradans who lack sizable access to these licensed facilities. Forcing rural Coloradans to travel long distances simply to purchase or transfer a firearm barrel is an unnecessary imposition on their Second Amendment rights, highlighting the glaring regulatory favoritism within this bill. Additionally, as I've noted, the bill's record-keeping requirements are also deeply concerning. Under this legislation, federally licensed firearm dealers must collect and retain sensitive personal information, including full legal names, addresses, dates of birth, and firearm ownership details, and retain that information for at least 5 years. This creates yet another de facto registry of law-abiding gun owners and their firearm components, raising serious privacy and data security concerns. As with most government-maintained databases, this mandate poses the risk of sensitive information being mishandled, leaked, or misused, placing Colorado gun owners at risk. Moreover, the bill's public safety rationale is fundamentally flawed. Criminals do not acquire firearm barrels through lawful retail channels, nor do they comply with in-person transfer mandates or record-keeping requirements. This bill will not deter violent offenders, but it will further entangle law-abiding citizens in a growing web of criminal liability. Once again, the majority party has chosen to target responsible gun owners instead of addressing the root causes of gun violence, such as career criminals, drug trafficking, and gang violence. By regulating non-deadly firearm components, lawmakers are setting a dangerous precedent. This piecemeal erosion of the Second Amendment rights should concern every Coloradan, regardless of whether they currently own a firearm. At a time when violent crime continues to plague Colorado, this bill highlights the misguided policy priorities of the majority party. Rather than empowering law enforcement to address real threats to public safety, this bill expands bureaucratic record-keeping and criminalizes the access of law-abiding citizens. The rights of Coloradans should not be diminished to compensate for the state's failure to meaningfully confront violent crime. So again, the 5 reasons to oppose this bill: the record-keeping burdens, number 1, on lawful businesses; number 2, criminalizing everyday activities between citizens, gun owners, sportsmen; the mere intent to sell or transfer, in fact, is criminalized potentially under this legislation. Intent. That, again, is going to be extremely problematic, I think, in enforcement. And fourth, the continual erosion of the Second Amendment rights of our citizens here in Colorado. And finally, the lack of a real tangible impact on the deterrence of criminal activity. So I think what we're witnessing here is an overreach, a piece of legislation that's a tremendous overreach for a very questionable, minimal deterrent effect on criminal activity. And so, as I noted on Friday, I think this is a bill that this body should reject here today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Liston.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I too, to no one's surprise, I too rise in opposition to Senate Bill 26043. On Friday, I came down and a lot of people were gone, so bear with me. I am going to repeat a little bit of what I spoke about on Friday. And I'll just start off, what is the real need, with all due respect to the sponsor, what is the real need for this bill? We don't hear anything, to my knowledge. There's not a problem with people going out and periodically replacing their firearms barrel due to rust or corrosion or overuse of the firearm. You know, when you go out shooting, the barrels do wear out. And to my knowledge, I've not heard in all my years here in Colorado, I've not heard that the fact that someone went out and replaced a barrel caused a real problem. And to that point, I took the liberty here over the weekend. In my district, there is a pretty well-known shopping center called University Village, and in that shopping center is the Sportsman's Warehouse. Those of you in Colorado Springs may be familiar with Sportsman's Warehouse up on North Nevada. And in fact, they have another one, I believe, out on off of Shelton and Platte Avenue. It's a fairly significant sporting goods. It's not just firearms, it's sporting goods, all kinds, hunting, camping, fishing, archery, you name it, they've got it. And I took the liberty to track down a couple of the employees to say, by the way, are you aware that there is a piece of legislation that is coming our way, your way, that will turn ordinary citizens into, I'm not sure, I don't want to say felons, but will have an impact upon them financially and legally and judiciously, because there's an attempt to make the transfer of a firearm barrel, whether it's a long gun or a pistol, that it has to be done in a certain way. And if you don't do it in that certain way, you're subject to a $500 penalty and or 30 days in jail. Well, they were incredulous, to say the least. They go, really? We had no idea. And I asked them, has there been a problem here? Well, no, not to our knowledge. Some of the employees have worked there for 2, 3, 4 years, and they're certainly familiar with the firearms industry. What's the need of this, colleagues? And I also spoke to some of the customers. I didn't do a scientific survey, but just to kind of satisfy my curiosity, they too were not aware of it, and they too were rather concerned that the fact that if they wanted to replace the barrel, that they had to go through all these hoops and hurdles. And especially the fact, I think the old adage, the devil's in the details. And one of the details in this bill is that to replace the barrel, it's got to be a federally licensed firearm dealer. Now, there's a difference in dealers. You can set up a gun store where you sell, maybe ammunition and certain types of firearms, but a federally licensed, that's a Class 3 license, I believe, a federally licensed firearms dealer, those are not on every street corner. In fact, they're few and far between. Sportsman's Warehouse, which is a pretty significant concern, they're not a Class 3. And the only one that I'm aware of in El Paso County is clear out on the eastern border. In fact, technically, it's in Senator Pelton's district. It's not even in my district. You have to go at least 15 miles, at least, to to go to a Class 3 firearms dealer in El Paso County. And if I'm not mistaken, in many counties, even in the rural counties, they don't have a Class 3 federally licensed firearms dealer, which means if you're going under this law, if you're going to replace your barrel, you've got to drive maybe 50 or 100 miles or more, so it's can be an all-day event. And the other thing that I would remind you of is that when you want to replace the barrel, it's not like you just walk into the store and say, here's my Winchester 30-30 or my 30-06, I need a new barrel. Well, it's not like they keep them in stock. They don't have a ready supply. They have to order them from the manufacturer because each specific rifle or pistol has to have the correct barrel. So here we are, colleagues, talking about a bill that is going to impact an ordinary citizen, a law-abiding citizen that has done their utmost with all the other 31, it was been recited, 31 anti-firearms bills. Now then, here's another one. If anything, this is death by 1,000 cuts. You say, well, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that now then, when you want to replace your barrel, whether it's a long gun or a pistol, you can't just go down to the store and do that. You've got to go through a Class 3 firearms dealer, which they're few and far between. So as I mentioned on Friday, here where we have pressing problems of our infrastructure, where we're short of money and resources on our roads, our bridges, our transportation infrastructure, no, that's not important. What is really important is that we've got to go out after the honest citizen, because certainly the criminal element, they're not going to abide by this at all. But the honest, law-abiding citizen, now then they've got to go through another hoop and hurdle to go through, find a Class 3 firearms dealer, and to get their barrel replaced. We've got problems with our funding for schools, which I spoke about. We've got severe agricultural issues. You know, we have a drought that is going to affect our state. We have problems with, you know, that we're looking ahead about fire mitigation. Like I say, our drought, we have 50 to 60% of our snowpack, which is really going to hurt Colorado. But no, that's not important. What we need to be doing is putting another rule and regulation on the honest, law-abiding citizen that's going to intentionally or even unintentionally, they're going to ensnare law-abiding people. We've got business and labor issues that we're trying to be hospitable to potentially having data centers here in Colorado. As I mentioned, you know, here in Denver, we've just lost a major Fortune 500 company. It's not a 500 company, it's one of the Fortune 100 companies where Palantir is leaving the state of Colorado to move to Texas. That's going to cost the state of Colorado millions of dollars in lost revenue and lost taxes. The restaurant industry, I mentioned that. The restaurant industry has had real problems with finding, you know, just staying in business. I don't know if any of you all have walked down the 16th Street Mall, but it's a veritable ghost town of many of the restaurants that have closed. Right up here, just east of the Capitol, what's going on Colfax? A lot of restaurants have closed. But no, we have more important problems because we need now to criminalize the transfer of a barrel that, like I say, 99.9% of the people have never had a problem doing. They want to do it honestly and fairly, and they've always abided by the law. In fact, it's been stated the barrels can't even be technically classified as a firearm.
Senator Liston, would you like to use your second 10 minutes?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I appreciate that. I will try and wrap up in everybody's time. But let me remind everybody something that we have done over the years that have chipped away. You know, so we've chipped away with these 30 or more anti-firearms bills. But let me remind you of some of the bills where we've really gone out overboard that the legislature has passed. Some of you have maybe voted for these. I know I didn't, but we've coddled felons. We had Senate Bill 13250, which reduced the seriousness and penalties for drug crimes. We have Senate Bill 15124 that made it harder to revoke a felon's parole for misconduct. We have House Bill 1326, which lowered the amount of time a felon can be sent back to prison for violating their parole. So, you know, we've coddled the felons, but we've gone after the law-abiding citizen to take away their Second Amendment rights, little by little. So this bill, Senate Bill 26043, is another cut by 1,000 cuts, death by 1,000 cuts. And then to remind you, we've had House Bill 1263, which reduced numerous drug felonies to misdemeanors. And last and certainly not least, I could recite others, we have Senate Bill 21124, which reduced felony murder to a parole-eligible offense. So on one hand, we've been coddling the criminals and the lawbreakers, and on the other hand, we're going out after the honest citizen, especially with this bill that is unneeded, is not necessary, that if you go and you're wanting to replace a barrel, whatever type it may be, you can't even just go to your regular gun store that might be a few blocks away. Now you've got to go to a Class 3 firearms dealer that could be miles and miles away in my county. And if you're in some of your counties, especially the rural counties, you may have to drive 50 or 100 or 200 miles for all I know. Is that right? I don't think so. So members, you know, you've heard a lot of good arguments. against Senate Bill 26043. These are just a few of the reasons why I will be a no vote. I hope you'll join me. Vote your conscience, vote the real people of Colorado, and vote no on Senate Bill 43. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Frizzell.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, members, I was not here on Friday for the lively conversation, and I was very sad about that, but I was actually in Washington State meeting my new grandson, who's 5 weeks old now, and if you want to see like overload of cuteness, come see me for photos because he's lovely. So, hey, Bodie Daniel DeFalco out there, I know you're listening. Actually, he's not. He's probably sleeping or doing other things. Last session, we heard the governor extol the virtues of the free state of Colorado. The free state of Colorado. Guess what? We live in the free state of Colorado, right here. Except, and we have in this building put a lot of, yeah, but not this. Or except this. And we've done a lot of that accepting around people's Second Amendments. A lot. I actually pulled this up and talked about it the last time we were having a conversation about Second Amendment rights. And so I think it's worthy of bringing it up before. And a couple of my colleagues have said, yeah, you know, over the last several years, there's been a lot. In 2025, 1 year ago, we passed, not me, I did not vote for any of these, 12 bills. 12 bills regulating, infringing on people's Second Amendment rights. 12, 1 year. And in 2024, 8. 2023, 10. 2021, 4. That's a lot. We've been busy. We've been super busy in this building, regulating people's Second Amendment rights. And I submit that it has had, candidly, very, very little effect on the problem. And I'm going to spend some time talking about what those real issues are, because the issue is not law-abiding citizens in Colorado. It's just not. We are not the problem here. We are not the ones going out and committing violent crimes with firearms. But yet, we over and over and over again have this mindset that if we just pass one more bill regulating people's Second Amendment rights, infringing on people's Second Amendment rights, that's going to do the trick. That will be the ticket. I was really curious about this because I'm a data person. You've heard me talk about that. I'm kind of a math geek. I love my numbers. And so I went out and I was kind of trying to figure out what's going on with gun violence in the state of Colorado. And I found this website. It's Johns Hopkins, the Bloomberg School of Public Health Center for Gun Violence Solutions. I'm assuming this is funded by Michael Bloomberg. He's pretty famous for his opposition to firearms. And they have this chart, and unfortunately, they don't have the data updated for 2024. But this is Colorado, and it goes all the way back to 2013, And it talks about gun death rates, not gun violence, we're just talking about gun deaths here, per 100,000. So I like that, and the reason why I like it is set as per 100,000 as it's not just straight numerics, that because obviously we have a lot more people who live in this state today than 13 years ago when the study was started, right? So obviously the numbers are going to go up. So I like that this is indexed to per 100,000. But this is from a 10-year period, 2013 to 2023. And so the total gun death rate per 100,000 in 2013 was 11.52. And in 2023, it was 16.6. And the gun suicide rate was 9.4 in 2013, and today, or sorry, not today, in 2023, it was 11.5. And the gun homicide rate in 2013 was 2. And in 2023, it was 4.4, over double. So I submit to you that there is no real proof. I have yet to see real proof. I would love to see real proof that let me count them up again because there's so many of them. 34 gun-related bills just since 2020. 34. And our numbers keep going up. So I'm not going to doubt that. I'm not going to doubt that our numbers are of gun violence, of gun deaths, keep going up, because we are the second most dangerous state in the United States, after all. The good senator from Highlands Ranch termed this bill as overreach. I think that's super kind. I think that's very kind. I would not describe it as overreach at all. I would describe it as tyrannical.
Can we be careful about impugning motives, please?
Yes, Madam President. You know, here in the free state of Colorado, we have lots of ways of transacting. Sometimes you go to the store and you purchase something. Sometimes you go on Etsy. Sometimes you go, I don't know, on Amazon. You go to somebody you know who has a specialty. I like to crochet. I don't sell my blankets or my little things that I make. I mostly give them to my grandkids, but I could. And we live in a society where, especially where if you have hobbyists, which are actually a lot of gun owners, they're hobbyists. You have somebody who knows how to produce a barrel for a specific type of firearm. I'm not a firearms expert, so don't even, we're not going to go there because I'm not. But why can't you go to somebody who knows what they're doing and buy their product? Why are we harming people's livelihood? Why are we doing so my son, when he was growing up, when he was 15, my dad had this Trans Am. It was a 1978 Trans Am with the golden eagle on the front. It was very cool. My dad was an airline pilot, and so this was like his super cool car that he drove to Stapleton Airport where he would fly.
Senator Frizzell, would you like to use your second 10 minutes?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you. So my dad would drive his Trans Am out there, but as my dad grew older, he stopped driving his Trans Am, and fortunately, we had a kid who was going to be driving. And so my husband decided it would be a great idea if they rebuilt together this Trans Am, because it needed it. And it was a project. But you know what it was, really? It was an investment in my son's driving record. Because if he spent countless hours taking care of something and developing a love for this vehicle that he was putting so much effort into, that he would respect it and he would respect how it was used. I would submit to you that that happens every day in every city, in every county in this state when it comes to firearms. There are law-abiding citizens out there who want to do the right thing, teach their kids the right way to operate and own a firearm, to be responsible. And this bill makes it that much harder to do that. I have several issues with this, so I'm just still on my first page of notes, so I may need to go all the way into my second 10 minutes. Because one of the things, when I read this bill and I looked through my bill packet, because I'm still one of those people who love their paper, so here I am with my pink fiscal note. And I'm looking through this and I'm going, okay, well, this is creating a new crime, right? It's an unclassified misdemeanor, so this is a new crime. So we're creating a new crime, and and it says that here in the fiscal note. It says, this bill creates a new offense of unlawful possession of a firearm barrel with the intent to sell or transfer an unclassified misdemeanor. And I'm not going to bore you with all of the details of this narrative, but thank you to the fiscal analyst for this. But this bill creates the new offense of unlawful purchase of a firearm barrel, a civil infraction. To form an estimate of the prevalence of this new crime, the fiscal note analyzed the existing offense of unlawful purchase of a firearm, a Class 4 felony, as a comparable crime. Okay. So I'm going to channel, do you remember that movie, Jerry Maguire, and Rod Tidwell standing there jumping up and down, and he's saying, screaming at Jerry, "Show me the money"? Okay, well, I challenge you all, show me the money. You cannot tell me that this fiscal note should be zero when we know that people will have to engage a public defender if they don't have their own counsel to defend themselves against prosecution. It's going to require the Department of Law to prosecute. It's going to require the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Well, they've got a big role in this, actually, because the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is going to have to enforce this, presumably, right? Because why would we be writing a law that can't be or won't be enforced? Why would that be? I'm confused. So I presume that the Colorado Bureau of Investigation or somebody is going to have to be enforcing this to make sure that all of those gun dealers are recording all the information. That's stipulated in this bill too. Those gun dealers are going to have to record that information, but who's going to know if they're doing it or not? Who's going to know if, say, I have a barrel that my dad left to me as part of his gun collection, and the guy down the street, he happens to collect that same kind of gun, and I say, you know what, I'm not using this, dude. You're welcome to it. I'm happy for you to have this. I just became a criminal for being a nice person, and I thought a law-abiding one. I talk to my constituents, and you've heard me say this over and over and over again, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again because my constituents keep asking me, when the heck are you guys going to address my issues? When the heck are you going to address affordability? When the heck are you going to try to figure out a way to make my homeowner's insurance less expensive? When are you going to fix my damn roads? All these kitchen table topics that we continue to kick down the road, those are the things that the people we represent care about. We got it. We got it. You don't want law-abiding citizens to have firearms. And rather than just come right out, make firearms illegal, which I think wouldn't pass the sniff test in the court system. My colleagues have termed it several times today, death by 1,000 cuts. In previous sessions, I've called it whack-a-mole on our Second Amendment rights because I think that that's actually real. And we're not addressing the reason why we are the second most dangerous state in the Union. And that reason is mental health. We have thrown hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars at the Behavioral Health Administration for zero return. Those are the folks that we can help. Those are the crimes that we can prevent. Criminals are going to criminal, folks. They are. But we don't need to make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. That has got to stop. That is not okay. And that's not what the good people of the state of Colorado want. This year, we've talked about a Colorado for all. A Colorado for all. It's a Colorado for those who my apologies, I don't want to impugn motives. Let me say what Colorado is not. Colorado is not a place where people can do business freely. Colorado is not a place that punishes real criminals. Colorado is not a place that values its citizens and their needs over special interests. It is time that we listen to the people that we represent and that we serve. They don't care about making gun barrels illegal. They just see it as just another can that we're kicking down the road. They don't care. They care about putting groceries on their table. They care about educating their children. They care about driving down a road without potholes. They care about safety in their communities.
Senator Frizzell, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam President. These are the things that Coloradans care about. They care about mental health. They care about us being accountable and transparent to them. Let's give them what they care about. I urge a no vote.
Thank you, Senator R. Pelton.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be brief. Everybody knows I come up here and don't say much and get her done. This tie I picked out this morning is special for today. This has my grandkids on it. This is my why tie. This is why I'm here, is for my grandkids. I want this state to return back to the way it was when I grew up, without all this government intrusion that goes on, and this bill is another one of those that does exactly that. I appreciate the sponsors' willingness to work on an amendment Friday that has to do with family and exchange in those parts. I won't belabor the arguments that have been made from my colleagues. They were very good arguments, very, very pointed about how this state is expensive to live in. We've got other problems way bigger than this going on in our state, but yet we're not working on those problems. I'm just going to end this by repeating something I said last session. I hear it continuously in my district. You go to Denver and you tell them to leave us the hell alone. My district is sick and tired of this building stomping on us. So please, vote no on this bill.
Senator Catlin.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I'm here, as you can probably determine, in opposition to Senate Bill 43 for a lot of different reasons, and there have been a lot of reasons that have been given this morning. I'm trying not to go over those over and over and over. One of the things I wanted to remind you is that I've gotten dozens on top of dozens of emails about this bill. Even though we may think that it's not a big thing, that we're only talking about barrels and, like that, but there's a real sense of worry in my district and all over the state about another opportunity to make us get in line, give our name, our address, our birth date over something that probably doesn't need to be done. There's no serial numbers on these barrels, so all we're doing is listing the people and what caliber of barrel they bought. Another list in another drawer that's kept for another 5 years. And what does it do? It doesn't accomplish the things that we are trying to accomplish in the state. I'm not a gun fancier. I've got them. I use them hunting and, those kind of things. But I've never had call to change barrels. And I mentioned this on Friday, that one time, before this bill came around, I didn't even know you could do it. But I did talk to some of the people that do use weapons in a way that, for their hobby, for, stress management and those kind of things. They told me that, that the competitive shooters, some of them may change barrels once every 6 months, depending on the competitions that they're in. Long-range shooters, they have to be so particular with sighting in their weapon that they may change it every 3 or 4 months, depending on how many rounds they fire downrange. They will be specifically impacted by this. And I represent a rural district. You've heard that numerous times from some of my colleagues. And we don't have the number of federally licensed firearm dealers that maybe you have here in the urban corridor. So it will be something that puts people out to a certain degree. But I don't think that's the big issue. I think the issue is that we are demanding it over something that's not a lethal item, with no serial numbers, with no way of tracking it, that we now give our state government our name on a list that's now managed by the gun dealer that I went to, who's now managed by CBI. Yet we've not discussed how long does it take CBI to get that done? What does it look like? When will it be delivered to the gun dealers so that they can start making people start registering? The fiscal note says it won't be a problem. We'll be able to do that. Well, I don't know about you, but I can't find any time we've said, oh, we'll be able to handle it in the state government, and they got right on it and it got taken care of immediately, and boy, everybody could just get in line and start taking care of it. That does not happen in Colorado for a number of reasons. Finance is part of it. You know, we're broke. We might as well say that. We're broke right now. How we get out of that's going to take a lot of cooperation and an awful lot of creativity and people willing to say, okay, I can take a cut, or I've got to take a cut. Would this be one of those places where CBI says we can't do this right now, and we put it off another year or whatever until we can get caught up? What happens to the people that need or want to buy a new barrel? Well, I'm thinking about those people. You know, the idea behind this bill is fine. I mean, it makes sense to a certain degree, but the part that doesn't make sense is the demand from your government to go down and give your name, your address, and your phone number, and all of that, because you want to buy a barrel. It's not the gun, just the barrel. Another demand, a demand made by government that will cost you time, money, and effort, and will cost the government some money, time, and effort. We're not thinking about those kind of things. And I think that's one of the things I'd like to remind us is we need to think about those kind of things because we're here at this time in our history, in the state of Colorado's history. We have serious troubles. And I'd like to see us spend more time on dealing with those than I would on making demands of my citizens in my district. I had some written stuff here, but I'm not going to use that. I just want to ask you all, think about this. This is an opportunity for us to say, look, we've gone far enough right now. We can stop with this, and we can turn towards the issues that are making Colorado suffer. Colorado is a very special place. We need to be thinking about it as a very special place. Please vote no on 43.
Minority Leader Simpson.
Thank you, Madam President. I couldn't help but think about, when I originally read this bill, it was focused on the criminality piece of it and what, from my perspective, was fairly routine occurrences of folks making normal transactions with the barrel of a firearm, and language in the bill that seemed really problematic about even intent, like having the material with the intent of transferring a barrel. It really just struck a chord with me about how problematic this was going to be. But I got to say, Friday's conversations also shed a little bit of light about the concept of creating a little separation. So I started thinking about this in different terms of creating that separation. And I assume that separation is from access to things that can cause harm from folks that are seeking to do self-harm. So, I mean, that's probably a laudable goal. We should be doing everything we can in this space to reduce that self-harm and those outcomes in our state. So I started thinking about that over the weekend, about, all right, well, the efforts that we've gone through, that the General Assembly has gone through in this space over the last several years, from extreme risk protection orders, its introduction, then an amendment to it, then yet another amendment to it. I think about the preemption of the statewide preemption, elimination of the statewide preemption when it comes to gun control, allowing local communities construct what they thought was best for their communities. I think about outlawing ghost guns or non-serialized guns, the exhaustive efforts that we've gone through to create a better space there. I'm not sure this particular policy adds much to create that separation that we haven't already constructed. And it seems like it comes at a cost, again, of the criminality of what is fairly, what I would suspect is a fairly routine exercise. We've created a registry of a voluntary registry where you can sign yourself up to don't sell me a firearm. Again, creating that, some space for those folks. I know I sat down and tried to list through, there are 8 or 10 policies that have become law over the last several years to create that space that I think was referenced many times that this bill intended to do, that I don't find as effective as many of the other policies, and at the expense of criminalizing, again, the transfer of a routine component to a firearm. Overlay that with some of the conversations this morning about intent, and even in the intent space, now we're going to criminalize intent, which seems rather problematic. It's for these reasons that I can't support Senate Bill 43 and ask you all to think hard about what the vote that you're all about to take and its implications and what the unintended consequences are about, again, criminalizing folks that are really conducting fairly routine, normal transactions that they've done for decades here in Colorado, that we're on the cusp of truly making that a criminal activity, and would ask for your no vote on Senate Bill 43. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. And yeah, I took some notes during this conversation here, and planning for today over the weekend was a bit of a struggle, because I was really unclear what direction the opposition would want to discuss and see where we are. But I think we kind of hit on some of the concerns that they have. I mean, I would want to start out with that gun deaths here in the state of Colorado are not inevitable. We as a society can do something about that. One of the questions and concerns that I hear is why do we have this discussion about the public health crisis of gun violence in the state of Colorado? They come here and quite frankly, folks, I mean, this is where the conversation is, especially with me. It's right here. This is the only place that I hear from the opposition on this policy. I don't hear from them anywhere else except here. So I stand over, take my notes, listen to what they have to say, and try to act accordingly. But this is where I get what their feelings are on this policy. And it has been that way for 8 years. And I get it, okay? Father of a murdered child on the front page of all of your newspapers. That's, can be a very difficult thing for you to comprehend, but it's real. It's right here. Gun violence costs the United States $557.2 billion each year. That's an average of $1,698 per person. Colorado is the 20th highest state in the country, with an average cost per person of $2,039. And folks, that is every person. Only 37% of Coloradans own firearms. So all of the things that happen on legislation like this impact the people who have chosen to purchase firearms, to be in that firearm space. There's 63% of us here in the state of Colorado that do not choose to be in that space. And because of gun violence, of its impact on our communities, $2,039 per person. It doesn't break down to rural, frontier, urban, suburban. That's everybody. No matter where you are, that's what the cost is. The rate of gun deaths in Colorado have increased 24% since 2015, compared to an 18% increase nationwide. That's 260 more deaths, more gun deaths, than in 2015. 260 more Coloradans died last year than died in 2015. Suicide increased by 17% since 2015. Colorado gun violence costs $11.7 billion per year. Our taxpayers spend $156.1 million of that cost. We need to talk about it because it impacts each and every Coloradan each and every day. We would be doing a disservice to them if we didn't. We spend weeks talking about how we spend their money. We talk about our educational system in the state. We talk about affordability and of our housing and the cost of living in Colorado. We even passed a resolution to make sure that we stayed focused on the quality of our roads, especially those in one specific county in our state. And I don't question a single one of those discussions. I believe the only way we can work to find solutions to these problems is to have lively conversations about them. But talking about the public health crisis that is gun violence is a topic we want to ignore. In an average year, over 1,000 Coloradans die by gun violence. That's 16.5 per 100,000. Colorado has the 23rd highest rate of gun deaths in the United States. That's nearly 3 points higher than the average. And gun homicides have been on a steady decline since the pandemic. The past 3 years, in 2025, we will have the lowest number of gun homicides in nearly a century. 17 of the top 50 cities have seen a decline. And these aren't just minimal declines. These are declines of nearly 30 to 50%. These declines make it so that it's safer for a black or brown man in the city of Chicago than it is for most any city in the state of Alabama. Those are the facts that need to be discussed rather than the disinformation and the fear that gets spread on a regular basis. We don't have any specific data points on just what that one single policy was that has accounted for all of these drops. So,
it's incredibly important that we continue to work in all of these aspects. We need to keep our kids fed. We need to get them educated. We need to have roofs on their head, over their heads. We need to make sure that there's bright lights on street corners and in parks. And we need to talk about legislation like Senate Bill 26043, because the industry is changing. Yeah, I wish I could go back to 1969 when things were great and I was a kid. But you can't do that. This is where we are. And we need to prepare ourselves and act to make this as safe as we can, to address these concerns, and to save lives each and every day. And for that, I ask for an aye vote on 26043.
Is there any further discussion on SB 043? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of SB 043. Are there any no votes? Senators Rich, Baisley, Catlin, Zamora Wilson, Frizzell, Simpson, Pelton B, Kirkmeyer, Bright, Carson, Pelton R, Liston, Roberts, Snyder, Hinrichsen, and Ball. With a vote of 19 ayes, 16 noes, SB 43 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Senators Wallace, Danielson, Cutter, Kolker, Wiseman, Coleman, Judah. Please add the president. Second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Wallace. General order, second reading of bills, consent calendar, please. Senator Wallace.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the whole for consideration of second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Wallace will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. The coat rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title to the bills on the general order's second reading of bills consent calendar?
Senate Bill 59 by Senator Cutter and Representative Lindsay concerning a prohibition on a member or member-elect of the General Assembly holding multiple elected offices. Senate Bill 50 by Senators Marchman and Bright concerning certain disclosures of policies that a child care center must provide to the caregivers of children being served at the child care center. Senate Bill 51 by Senator Ball and Representative Pascal concerning age attestation for users of computing devices. Senate Bill 110 by Senators Bright and Mullica concerning revision of public assistance final disposition expense terms. Senate Bill 61 by Senators Rich and Roberts and Representatives Lukens and Richardson concerning a change to legal notice publication requirements for a county without a requisite legal newspaper. Senate Bill 26 by Senator Catlin, Representative Leader, and Winter T concerning increase in the gross vehicle weight rating limit for a passenger motor vehicle for which the use of a child restraint system is required.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move passage for all the bills on general order, second reading of bills consent calendar, which are Senate Bill 59 and the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report, Senate Bill 50, Senate Bill 51 and the Business, Labor, and Technology report, Senate Bill 110, Senate Bill 61 and the Local Government and Housing Committee report, and Senate Bill 26.
Is there any discussion of any of the committee reports? The motion before the body is the adoption of all the reports to all the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the reports are adopted. Is there any discussion of the bills on the consent calendar? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills on the general orders, second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Wallace.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
March 2nd, 2026, Madam President, Committee of the Whole begs leave to report has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 59 as amended, Senate Bill 50, Senate Bill 51 as amended, Senate Bill 110, Senate Bill 61 as amended, Senate Bill 26 passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed in the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Wallace.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. SB 26059 as amended, SB 26050, SB 26051 as amended, SB 26110, SB 26061 as amended, SB 26026 passed on second reading and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Second reading of bills. Senator Wallace.
Thank you, Madam President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, and Senator Wallace will take the chair.
I'll do committee assignments again. I'm just looking for volunteers.
The committee will come to order, and the coat rule is once again relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 26021?
Senate Bill 21 by Senators Mullica and Simpson and Representatives Barone and Pascal concerning authorizing the Clean Fleet Enterprise to encourage the replacement of high-emitting trucks with low-emitting trucks and motor vehicle fleets.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Senate Bill 21 and the Transportation and Energy Report, Committee Report.
To the Transportation and Energy Committee report, Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In Transportation and Energy, we made some pretty significant changes to the bill. We changed the year for the trucks to be replaced to move it down to 2006 from some of the stakeholders to really try to capture the most pollutant trucks to be replaced. We also added language into the bill to make sure that the trucks that are being replaced are operable, that they were roadworthy, to make sure that these trucks that are being pulled off were actually being used so that we could have some sort of tangible impact on air quality. Again, that was from some of the stakeholding that we did from some of the environmental groups that we really thought was sharing the same intent that we had, which is to get cleaner, safer trucks onto the road. I would ask for a yes vote.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of the Transportation and Energy Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the report is adopted. To the bill, Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a bill around the existing Clean Fleet enterprise that has accumulated funds, and technology and economics just haven't kept pace with the need and the desire to replace dirtier burning trucks across the state. So very thoughtful approach to go a fraction of that fund, no more than 20%, and over a 5-year period, we actually focus on trucks again, as the good senator from Thornton identified, are more than 20 years old now, and offering a process to replace those with cleaner burning trucks that are not electric yet, because the electrification of those trucks is still, the opportunity for replacing those with electrified trucks is still some few years away, potentially. So seems like a really good approach to take advantage of the fund and help improve air quality all at the same time. Ask for an aye vote.
Senator Mullica.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members, for this opportunity. Members, this was a TLRC bill that came out from this summer, and so a lot of work was put into it, really with what the good senator from Alamosa said, which is to focus on getting cleaner, safer trucks onto the road. During the TLRC process, we actually, for the drafting, put in a 5-year sunset on the bill as well, which we believe is good governance to really make sure that we are able to look at this program, making sure that we are having the tangible impact that we are intending here. And so we believe that this bill will be a good bill for Colorado. It would be a good bill making our air cleaner, our roads safer. We heard from a number of folks who are supportive of this bill, including labor organizations who have workers who are in these trucks, who want us to do this because they want safer trucks for their workers to be driving. And so really excited to bring it. We think it's a common sense bill that could have a tangible impact on our air quality here in Colorado and create a safer, cleaner Colorado for everyone, and would ask for a yes vote.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 21. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the committee is to rise and report. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
Senate will come to order. Senator Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
March 2nd, 2026, Mr. President, in committee, the whole begs leave to report has had under consideration the following attached bill, being the second reading thereof, makes following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 21, as amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed in the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion's adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. There's a piece of paper somewhere. There it is. Gracias. Senate Bill 21 is amended, passed second reading, order gross placed accounted for third reading and final passage. Consideration of governor's appointments. Consent calendar. Mr. Schaffler, please read the appointments listed on the consent calendar.
Members of the State Historical Society Board of Directors for terms expiring July 1st, 2028. Bonnie Gross of Denver, Colorado, appointed. Nancy Chisholm of Lakewood, Colorado, reappointed. Zebulon Miracle of Grand Junction, Colorado, reappointed. Jennifer Kim McDonald of Los Animas, Colorado, reappointed. Member of the Securities Board, effective July 2nd, 2025, for term expiring July 1st, 2028. Andrea Ginshaw of Louisville, Colorado, to serve as a certified public accountant, appointed. Member of the State Board of Equalization for a term expiring September 2nd, 2029. Rosalind Saucedo of Pueblo, Colorado, to serve as a member with knowledge of property taxation, appointed. Members of the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority Board of Directors for term expiring July 1st, 2029. Willa Williford of Crested Butte, Colorado, to serve as a member representing the public, appointed. Melinda Pollock of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member representing representing the public appointed. Member of the Board of Trustees for the Fort Lewis College, effective January 1st, 2026, for a term expiring December 31st, 2029. Paul Major of Telluride, Colorado, reappointed. Member of the Board of Trustees for the University of Northern Colorado, effective January 1st, 2026, for a term expiring December 31st, 2029. Annette Martinez of Windsor, Colorado, reappointed. Members of the Clean Fleet Enterprise, effective September 29th, 2025, for terms expiring September 28th, 2029. Will Allison of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member with expertise in air pollution reduction, and reappointed. John Taylor of Boulder, Colorado, to serve as a member with expertise in business or supply chain management, reappointed. For term expiring September 28th, 2028, Olga Mijares of Commerce City, Colorado, to serve as an individual from disproportionately impacted community, occasioned by the resignation of Jose Guardiola of Commerce City, Colorado, appointed.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for a passage of all the appointments on the consideration of governor appointments consent calendar, which are Bonnie Gross of Denver, Nancy Chisholm of Lakewood, Zebulon Miracle of Grand Junction, Jennifer Kim McDonald of Las Animas for the State Historical Society Board of Directors, Ashley Genshaw of Louisville for the Securities Board, Ronald Saucedo of Pueblo for the State Board of Equalization, Willa Williford of Crested Butte, Melinda Pollock of Denver for the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority Board of Directors, Paul Major of Telluride for the Board of Trustees for Fort Lewis College, Annette Martinez of Windsor for the Board of Trustees for the University of Northern Colorado, Will Allison of Denver, John Taylor of Boulder, Olga Mijares of Commerce City for the Clean Fleet Enterprise.
Any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the confirmation of the appointments on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes on the consent calendar? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, and 0 excused, those appointments are confirmed. Consideration of governor's appointments. Mr. Schauffele, please read the appointments of the Public Employees Retirement Benefit Plans.
Members of the Public Employee Retirement Benefit Plan for a term expiring July 10th, 2028, Cynthia Lowe of Boulder, Colorado, to serve as a representative with experience and competence in investment management, finance, banking, economics, accounting, pension administration, or actuarial analysis, occasioned by the resignation of Taylor McLemore of Denver, Colorado, appointed effective July 11, 2025, for a term expiring July 10, 2029. Andrew Shrimp of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative with experience and competence in investment management, finance, banking, economics, accounting, pension administration, or actuarial analysis, appointed.
Madam President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the appointment of Cynthia Lowe of Boulder and Andrew Shrimp of Denver to the Public Employees Retirement Benefit Plans.
Any discussion? There is discussion. Senator Coker.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I'll try not to be too long because I know we've been here. We got a lot of other things to do, but I took this off a consent calendar in Finance Committee. I'm not speaking out against in particularly either of these appointments. One of the appointments is more, their experience has been in private equity, and they're going to become a voting member of 15 voting members on the PARA board, 3 of which are appointed by the governor, and one of these will be a person who's specifically involved in private equity. And I just wanted to speak about, I'm not always going to be here to give you this information, and I want to speak about something that we should be highlighting as a Senate and as a legislature when it comes to PARA. Currently, PARA has voted to increase in 2024 their private equity exposure to 10%, up from 8%. Why am I concerned about this, and why am I concerned about one person on the voting board with undue influence in private equity? It is because private equity's valuation and their monitoring are different than our global equity. Then 51% of the portfolio, which is $67 billion, which is funded at a 69% funding rate, meaning we are 69% funded of all future liabilities, when in 2001 we are 103% funded of all future liabilities. And a few things happened in 2001 that were done by the board, by reference of leadership at that time, to make PARA more unstable. And because at 69% of funding of future liabilities, we are now putting in close to $1 billion a year, colleagues, $1 billion a year from our general fund budget into the state pension plan because of Senate Bill, I think it's Senate Bill 18200, to stabilize para, and they've done a good job. They've had some good returns, and the money that we're putting in, the extra money we're putting in, is needed. Otherwise, our credit rating will sink. But that $1 billion, when we talk about a shortfall in our budget right now, that $1 billion easily covers that. And now, how does this relate to private equity? Because private equity is one of the highest fee return on investments out there. And it's also one of the least transparent investments out there. We have over 150 different partnerships in Colorado Para in private equity with 50 different managers, bless you, with a fee on an annualized basis of 2 to 3%, okay? 2 to 3%, when our global equity is under 0.3%. So 2 to 3%. Oh, there's this other thing called carried interest. If you don't know what carried interest is, it's up to 20%. And carried interest is the amount the private equity firm keeps when they have a rate of return, when they have a positive return outcome. So they keep 20% of the profit and charge 2 to 3% a year. Now, right now, I pulled up what Para is paying out per year. And we are negative from 22, 23, and 24 from contributions versus what we pay out. In 2022, we're negative $1.23 billion. 2023, $1.57 billion. 2024, $1.2 billion. That means we are paying out more than we are taking in, and we are reliant on the rates of return to fund and to make our pension solvent. So it's very reliant on the managers. And luckily for us at $67 billion, we can get some really good managers in private equity, and we have some. But some of their rates of return have averaged 4% a year after their fees. When the global market, the S&P 500 over that time frame, has done double digits at a fraction of the cost. And so we are paying out so much more negative in fees. And yet they voted, Para Board of Trustees in 2024, to increase their allocation to this high cost, low transparent investment vehicle. In fact, it's even in Colorado statute that we cannot discuss some of those investments unless they go into executive session because they're confidential. Then how are we supposed to be good fiduciaries and good stewards if we cannot discuss this? And think about that in executive session. There's 15 members and one of them is private equity. Now, when I asked this person if they would recuse themselves, they said yes, but what's the defining line of recusing yourself over in general private equity or about the private equity you manage or you put together? So there's some undue influence because if you think about the 15 members, 10 of those are elected para members, teachers, Department of Corrections, people working in state government, local government. How many of those are experts at finance? And person that is an expert, these 3 experts that we get from the governor's office kind of rely on their expertise. We rely on para, but when they go into executive session, we have no idea what they're talking about. And so my point today, not to tell you to vote no, my point today is pay attention. I know it's not your area of expertise, but pay attention. Know what's going on and be ready in the future to ask these questions. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the appointment of the members to the Public Employees Retirement Benefits Plan. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, the appointments are confirmed. The following persons, Cynthia Lowe of Boulder, Colorado, and Andrew Shrimp of Denver, Colorado, are appointed to the Public Employees Retirement Benefit Plans Board. Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1017 by Representative Espinosa and Zakai and Senator Weissman concerning prohibiting an insurer from receiving restitution through the criminal restitution process.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1103 by Representative Garcia and Goldstein and Senator Cutter concerning amending specific legal processes for certain vulnerable populations.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1114 by Representative Stewart R. and Woodrow and Senator Ball concerning an allowed minimum lot size for subject jurisdictions.
Local government and housing.
House Bill 1146 by Representative Phillips and Hamrick and Senators Colker and Kipp concerning allowing approved facility schools to affiliate with the Public Employees Retirement Association.
Finance. Signing of bills.
The President has signed Senate Bill 10 and 52.
Announcements. Would the Senate choir please assemble to wish a happy birthday to Senator Marchman?
Embrace the horror.
Okay. Okay, ready?
Oh,
Three.
Oh, take me out to the ballgame is what I was going to say. I'm sorry. No. 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Senator Marchman. Happy birthday to you.
Further announcements. Senator Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this is to announce the business of the Judiciary Committee. Usual time, 1:30, usual place, Old Supreme Court, to hear two bills, Senate Bill 95, followed by House Bill 1020. See you at 1:30.
Very good. Senator Cutter.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Transportation and Energy Committee will meet at 1:30 p.m. in Committee Room 352 to discuss appointments to the Colorado Aeronautical Board.
Very good. Senator Mabile.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Joint Budget Committee will be meeting this afternoon across the street. We're scheduled to start at 1:30, but I know that we're going to be a little bit late getting going, so probably a little closer to 2:15. See you over there.
Very good. Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. They'll probably be late because there'll be two of their members will be presenting in Senate Education Committee today at 1:30. First, we have members of the Board of Trustees of the Colorado School of Mines. There is one contentious appointment on there. Some guy from Boulder, non-alumnus of the school, appointed. Some guy last name Fenberg, so you might want to just stop in if you have any concerns. Okay?
Yes.
And then we'll be hearing Senate Bill 78.
Very good. Senator Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to remind you all that on, just a second, I got to get my glasses working. On Thursday night, March 5th, between 5:30 and 7 p.m., the Colorado Optometric Association will be hosting their reception at the Warwick Hotel, 5:30 to 7. They're asking, please, come and see them. See your way clear to come to their reception.
Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's that time of the week again. Pastor Dan File will be in the basement tomorrow morning, starting at 7:15 to give us our Bible study. Come feed your soul and we'll feed your belly too.
Very good. Further announcements. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn until 9 a.m. Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will adjourn until 9 a.m. on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026.